Hi everyone, we're from Create Zim. My name is Tanya Radwa and I'm a volunteer. Today we're going to be discussing on self-harm, and I'm joined here today with 4 students and also a psychologist. So we'll begin with some introductions, and I think we shall start with our students. John Paul, if you want to introduce yourself.
My name is John Paul. I'm 20 and I go to University of Brighton. Anything else?
That's great, thank you. Elton?
Hi, my name is Alton. I go to the University of, well, you don't know your university, but yeah, I'm in SA.
Nice. Peter?
My name is Peter. I'm 19 and I go to University of Brighton.
And we also have with us joined our psychologist. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Nombulelo Kroko. I'm a clinical psychologist. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. And also alongside we have our other lead discussion as well with us, who is going to be Anopa. If you want to introduce yourself as well.
Sure. Hello guys, my name is Anupam Rambiwa. I'm 19 and I'm going to be co-leading this discussion.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So as already said, we're going to be discussing on self-harm. So I just first of all wanted to ask, what do you guys think self-harm is? And this is for anyone to answer.
I guess it's, I'm going to say, from my understanding, I feel like it's like a physical release of like maybe like a mental pain, a mental trauma that you're feeling, and usually people feel like the only outlet is to, I guess, release the stress and on themselves, causing self-harm.
Yeah, Elton?
Yeah, I agree with what John said. Self-harm is like when you're trying to, release your pain by hurting yourself, or not release your pain, but it's basically just you trying to deal with your pain by hurting yourself.
Okay, thank you, Elton and JP. Yes, so I'll also give you guys some facts. What you said is some of the things that are actually correct. As I said, to relieve stress or discomfort people have. And also I just want to give you guys some facts as well on self-harm. So we have on some of our statistics on Create Zim that the average age of the first incident of self-harm is at 13. And then you've also got that 45% of people use a cutting method as their like method of self-injury. I just wanted to ask, why do you guys think maybe that the age starts at such a young age of 13? And maybe why do people use cutting as well to harm themselves?
I think maybe it's because like at 13, that's when you officially become a teenager and you're like more concerned about what other people think, how like your environment like sees you and views you. And I think because of cutting, because maybe it's just the easiest, if in terms of like self-harming, because like you can hide cuts, you can hide a burn, and like, yeah, I think that's why probably.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Peter. I'll pass on to Anopa.
Okay, so I think the reason why people or children or the average age of first incident of self-harm is 13 is because, like as what Peter had said, that's when you become a teenager. And being a teenager comes with its own stresses. That's when you start probably experiencing a certain feel of responsibility that you never experienced before, and that responsibility always comes with its own downfall. As much as it might have an advantage and disadvantage to it. So once there's weight on you, you are more prone to these mental illnesses. You have depression, you have anxiety, and all these just come into play. So yeah, that's why.
Thank you, Anopa. I'm also going to ask Nobulelo if you could give us sort of your view on what we've just spoken about as well, please.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting point, that the start of age is around 13. So we talk about issues of sexual identity as well, when you're looking at that age group. So say someone discovers that they're gay and they know they can't talk about it, or they don't have a safe space to talk about it. You can also have these kind of symptoms. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. As you said that as well, it's actually a great point, because again, on the Create Zim, there is actually also one of our facts that it tends to be a very high risk of people that are bisexual. So as you said, sexual identity is actually a really big thing for maybe why some people engage in self-harm. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I shall pass on to Anopa now. It's also got a question for you guys.
All right, so okay, so I was thinking we just continue from where Tanya left, and she had pointed out why she had asked the question, what is self-harming, and I think we could move on to more, why do people actually self-harm? Of course.
Thanks for that question. So maybe the first point to note is that when we're looking at self-harm or self-injury, normally the person does not have an intention to commit suicide. So self-harm is normally a way of coping. If someone is going through something and they don't know what to do with the negative emotions, then they resort to self-harm.
I agree with that point. It makes sense, because I feel like maybe the person may be too scared to commit suicide, or may have had the negative things. Maybe
I was saying that I think that in a way they want to commit suicide. But what's this? They want to commit suicide, but maybe never mind. I lost my thing. What I was trying to say. Maybe they're scared of actually going through with the whole thing. But I mean, the whole cutting yourself. Maybe it's like, I don't know. Maybe one day they hope that if they, well, I don't really know much about cutting yourself, but maybe if they like cut deep, then maybe they'll just like, what's this? Eventually die or something.
I believe that self-harm is just a way of like escaping the problems, and it helps them deal with their issues. Maybe I think probably suicide is also a way for people to deal with their issues, but I think it's just a last resort. I don't think anyone really decides that today I'm going to commit suicide. I feel like they have to really think about it for a long time. But as they're still trying to process the idea of actually really killing themselves, they have to find a way to deal with their pressing issues, and maybe they go into self-harm. So probably that maybe it's the reason why people do actually self-harm.
Yeah, no, maybe you're right.
All right, I have a follow-up question. On a trend I noticed in most of your answers, and I would like to direct this follow-up question to our psychologist, Nombulelo. Can self-harm be viewed as a substitute to suicide?
Okay, that's a difficult question. So when we talk about suicide in this case, it's normally accidental. For a person who's into self-harm, suicide would be an accidental thing. But at the same time, self-harm does put that individual at risk of attempting or committing suicide at some point. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So moving on. How does this self-harm become so addictive? Like, we've been hearing cases of how it becomes sort of a habit that someone does again and again and again. How does something like self-harm become so addictive?
So that's a good question. Just like alcohol, just like marijuana, if someone uses that as a coping mechanism, whenever they've got a problem, that is what they run to. That is the only way they know how to deal with issues. So self-harm, like what people would say, like clients would say, physical pain is better than emotional pain. Yeah. So because they can't deal, because they are struggling to deal with that emotional pain, they feel that the physical pain is a good distraction and it's a good feeling in quotes. So then it becomes addictive. The person doesn't learn new ways of or better ways of coping with problems, and they stick to this maladaptive behavior.
So it's not the practice that is addictive, but it's the reason or the situation that the person is in that makes the practice so addictive.
Is that question for me?
Anyone else? Yes.
I mean, I think
It was
it's
just a follow-up
probably.
question.
Oh, I mean, I think it's for the. I think it's because of the situation the person's in. To be honest, because if you look at like weed or like alcohol, like for everyone, addiction like comes. Addiction is like different to different people. Some people are easier like to get addicted to stuff, but I feel like if you are depressed or if you have troubles, then it's easier to get addicted to certain things because they bring you, as I said before, they help you escape from your current situation. So it might be more easier for you to get addicted to something like self-harm and alcohol when you're not really feeling all that well. But if you're like happy and like there's really not much disturbing you, you don't really need to escape from anything.
I was going to ask you, so with, as you said, Anopa, that it can be addictive. I was going to ask, how do you guys think someone can stop themselves from self-harming?
Teaching them better ways to cope, like with their emotional pain. So
Okay.
yeah, I guess
How do you think you could help them to cope with the emotional pain? Like, what do you think there'll be resources or people? What do you think?
Well, I would say counseling, but I guess finding someone that they can talk to who support them, like maybe a family member, because most people don't feel comfortable talking to people that they don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say definitely like seeking professional help can definitely do a lot. But at the same time, not being too overbearing because I know that, yeah, people in that type of situation wouldn't want to be like overly stressed. As long as you break it down and tell them, okay, this is something that isn't normal. Because some people may not that they may not know it's not normal, but it may just be something that's just like that passes through their head. They think, okay, you know what, I feel like this, I'm gonna do this. So it's like the normal for them. So kind of like helping them break that cycle and helping them understand that it is something that is dangerous. And then from there, kind of like Elton said, like replacing things, giving them like healthy habits. Maybe if they feel like this, they should go talk to someone. If they feel like this, maybe write it down or do this. Kind of give them like a different outlet to channel the pain, channel what they're feeling, rather than hurting themselves or causing themselves harm.
If we could get maybe Lelo, if your opinion as well.
So the first thing is insight, helping that particular person or that particular client gain insight into their problem, helping them realize that self-harm is actually a problem. That's number one. Number two, because if someone doesn't see it as a problem, then they don't see a reason to stop. Yeah. So that is the first step. Then, so when a person understands or admits to having a problem, then you can motivate them to change. We normally use what we call motivational interviewing, so that they can realize the need for a change. Remember, we said this is addictive. This is why this behavior is repetitive. So a person might be reluctant really to change. But when they realize that it's a problem and they do acknowledge that it is, then that's a good starting point.
I agree. I wanted to, if it's okay, also put an opinion out. I was going to say, I think, because as we said from the statistics, it starts from a very young age of 13. So I was going to say, I think it's really important for schools to already have a system in place, because I think sometimes that's where a lot of self-harming begins, in young people that are in education. So like to kind of prevent them from kind of going down that route of self-harming. And also sometimes it can lead from like stem from bullying as well. So maybe I think a lot of it can maybe start from within education. Do you guys agree with this, or think it's maybe something more the families at home should do, or schools should be more involved?
I think schools should be more involved, to be honest, because as you said, it stems from education. Because if you don't know it's wrong and it's not like the only viable outlet you have, then you wouldn't know like what you're doing is bad and it's harmful to yourself, because it's just giving you pleasure. So, and unless you know that, okay, this is wrong, this is bad, like then you wouldn't. Yeah, it will be less. It will be, like the chances of you actually doing it will be less, in my opinion.
Anyone else?
Yeah, and I think to be proactive rather than reactive is definitely something with education. So if you proactively tell people, or just educate people, teenagers, that okay, self-harm isn't good, and there are other outlets, there are other ways to get through pain. If you are feeling pain, you just come talk to your mentors, etc., rather than finding out that a student has self-harmed and then reacting to it. So education can definitely help. Just it break it that prevents the cycle from even happening before it even starts. And yeah, definitely some education. Yeah.
I'll turn on with Lella. Napa?
Okay. I feel as though schools won't be enough. I feel like when it comes to the issue, I'm speaking from a Zimbabwean perspective, where okay, we have schools, but then it's more than just the relationship that a child has at school. It's also the relationship that the child develops at home.
Mm.
Culture-wise, it's not a place where, you know, like I think I once stated in the previous discussion that here culture and mental health don't interlink. You can't mix mental health and culture, because in our culture as Shona people, it doesn't exist, if I'm making sense. So if we do have schools stepping in and having these public professionals who can help children who might be falling to self-harm, but then it also, we need this to also start from the home. Have this child have someone they can look up to, someone who they can open up to. As stated before, that self-harm is also a cause, because like I said, mental illnesses. So because of that, it's easier for the child to then, if mental illness is being addressed from a home level, it would be easier for them to open up at a school level, because they already know that they have a problem, and it's now easy for them to approach the right people, given that they have full support at home. Because it's one thing for a child to go to a professional to get help because of a mental illness and tell their parents that they have this illness, which won't be taken seriously at the end of the day. So I think it's an all-round thing. It's not just the schools that should be taking this up, but it should be on a level, on the level of society as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Napa. I just want to ask if anyone have any questions that they wanted to put out there, or anything that they wanted to share with us before we round up.
So I just wanted to add that when we look at self-harm, we would also want to screen for other disorders like borderline personality disorder or depression. Those are the two major ones that are normally associated with self-harm. So this is why it would be important to refer this particular person to a professional, to a clinical psychologist. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you. I agree with that. Especially as you said, it can stem from further things or even stem into anxiety and depressions as well. So it's definitely a big thing to get more professional help for people that maybe engage in self-harming. Thank you.
Yeah, and just a few tips like when someone is having those kind of thoughts, they can distract themselves, maybe call a friend, um, or write or draw something on those particular parts of the body where they normally cut, instead of cutting themselves or burning themselves. Doing exercise, doing some breathing exercises can also help manage those kind of thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing those tips with us, Nobulelo. I'm sure they'll really help someone that may be thinking of self-harming themselves. And also I was going to say as well, if you guys check out on the Create Zim page as well, there's also some tips as well, some that have come like further as well. We've also got Thankful Thursday, so make sure to check out that page if you have anyone that may be going through self-harming as well. But that is everything, guys. I wanted to thank you all for joining us. So thank you to Peter, John Paul Elton, and to our clinical psychologist, Nobulelo, and of course to Anopa, who was also co-leading the discussion. We're from Create Zim, guys. So thank you very much for joining in this discussion.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.